The views expressed on the following broadcasts do not necessarily reflect those of KHLT, Take 12 Radio, or our affiliates. The opinions on this show should not be considered as medical, psychological, or professional advice and are those of the host, co-host, and guest. Take 12 Radio and KHLT Recovery Broadcasting are not affiliated with any particular 12-step fellowship. Now here are your co-hosts, Marv R., Bruce H., and the Monty Man.
Yes, welcome and thanks for the applause.
Yeah, where'd that come from?
Where's that group at?
There they are. Yay! Welcome aboard to the Take 12 Recovery Radio Show, Open Forums, The Great Reality, with Marv R., Bruce H., moi, Nala the studio dog, Christy the studio cat, who's running around outside somewhere, and Tina the goldfish. And Cecil. Cecil has got something new for us here coming up.
Oh boy!
Hey, I want to tell you guys before we get into this whole thing. There's a recovery radio podcast called Recovery 101. Now they're a little more off color than the Monty Men. They can get a little, interesting. But I have to tell you, I really kind of get a kick out of their show, and some of the topics are very informative and very good. And I was listening. I listened to like 6 of them, going and coming from Arizona here last week. And they were just kind of a kick in the pants. I really enjoyed them. Recovery101.podomatic.
Who wants to be kicked in the pants?
Well, some of us need a good swift kick in the pants.
Got it now.
Recovery101.podomatic.com. They didn't ask me to give them a shout out. I just wanted to do that because I just thought it was some really good programming. Congratulations, you guys. They've been doing it for quite a while. And they get thousands and thousands of people downloading their shows. They're out of Southern California. And just check them out. They're a lot of fun. They do a thing called the Boozy News. The news not fit for booze. And in the spirit of that, because, look, there's nothing new under the sun. Nobody's really original, right? So everybody gets something from somebody. So Cecil's got a little thing, and it was inspired by the Boozy News. So you guys at Recovery 101, thank you. You didn't know it, but you kind of blessed us, and you inspired. Well, you're going to see what it is here in a few minutes. So I wanted to tell you guys that our trip to Arizona, to Prescott, Arizona, was incredible. It was interesting. That's all I'll say about the travel. It was interesting. If you'd like to write me at take12radio.com and hear my experience, I'll share it with you. But I don't want to share it with you on the air. But the travel to and from was interesting. But I have to thank Marco Ronzi for sponsoring our travel expenses and for putting us up for the Hope Fest at Prescott, Arizona. Now, Hope Fest in Prescott is an amazing thing. I mean, there is thousands of people there. And Prescott is in a part of Arizona that's very beautiful. There's lots of trees. It's an old town. And we were surrounded around the courthouse. And it was a faith-based function, faith-based recovery function. And so the gospel was being shared on a government facility, which is unusual today. And there were musicians, there were speakers, there were booths galore, everything from artists to authors. Just an amazing event. I was really impressed and very well put together. And Jaylene and David Long are the ones that are responsible for that. I want to thank them. What a great group of people. And I mean, there was people there from Teen Challenge, Celebrate Recovery, groups like Wounded Warrior and things like that. I mean, there was just, and what they do is they serve their community, and they get on the same page. They serve their community in ways not just speaking and doing music, but all throughout the year they do stuff. It's just a great group of folks. So that was really cool to be a part of that. If you'd like to hear some of the interviews from that, go to our archives. Go to take12radio.com, click on our archives button, and you'll find our YouTube version there of the Hope Fest. And then Saturday, Marcia and I went up to Tualatin for the Come Rest a While Harvest Festival. That was a lot of fun. Come Rest a While is really one of the gold standards in sober living. And Nancy Ingeman, she is one of the co-founders of Come Rest a While. The other co-founder lives in Hawaii now, but Nancy's been doing this for years. She's gotten all sorts of awards. This is a sober living home for women, and I am telling you what, it is very successful. No self-governing baloney. The place is run with a firm hand, a strict accountability, but tons of love, the compassion, and to watch these women come back, the alumni, every year to this event, and they're still sober, they're still clean, and many of them have developed a relationship with God. I mean, and they keep coming back. Some of them are married and have babies now, little tiny babies, and their lives are successful because of the obedience and the love of Nancy Ingeman. Just amazing to be a part of. So they've hired us to cover their event for the last 2 years. So I just wanted to talk about that. That is also up in our archives. You can see some of the pictures and meet some of the people through video and so forth on our archive show of the Come Rest a While Sober Living events. Okay, so that is there. Marv, how you doing, buddy? What's going down, man?
Pretty darn good. Not too bad at all.
Yeah, you looking chipper today.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, Bruce?
Rather fetching.
Yeah. Nala goes, fetching? Hi, Nala. She's sleeping. Bruce, what's going on with you, buddy?
Hey, things are going real good with me. I've got to spend some time with my grandson.
Yeah?
Going to get him next weekend, so I'm just really stoked.
Yeah.
That's a big part of my life. And that's good sound.
Yeah, right now. Well, you both guys are looking exceptionally well today. I have on my happy shirt.
I noticed that.
My son's girlfriend is in Hawaii, and so he's missing her right now. And I wore this shirt for church for 2 hours, so it's still clean. I wore it yesterday, and I wasn't thinking. He goes, if I see one thing that is associated with anything Hawaiian, I'm going to shoot you. And I wore this shirt because he's missing her right now. But we had the family. Cameron and Amber came down from McMinnville and surprised me as a belated birthday surprise. And that was a lot of fun. So we were all together. We went to Sizzler.
The one thing I
yesterday.
was thinking that you couldn't go visual with that.
With this?
Yeah.
With blind the camera?
You could.
I love this shirt. It's one of my favorite shirts. And may I say, I'm not too sexy for my shirt. So the family was all here yesterday, and there's no better birthday gift than to have all your kids in one place. Sitting out in the middle of the street yesterday, taking the tires off of Cameron's car, trying to figure out why his brakes were acting up. So that was fun. That's always a lot of fun, right? You get two guys that are 100 pounds overweight trying to get up off the ground to change a tire.
That's why you roll around a lot.
That is. Mm-hmm. All right. We're going to be talking about a couple things today. One of the things that we're going to be talking about is getting into God's stride. Getting into God's stride. And I'll tell you what that's all about here in just a little bit. So we're going to take our first break, and when we come back, Cecil's got something new, something brand new, inspired by the folks at Recovery 101, and they didn't even know it. Don't go away.
Don't go away. I know I won't. After these messages, KHLT Radio will be right back.
My baby boy was a very good sleeper. He would nap in the morning and nap again in the afternoon, so my routine became that I would drink the first half of the time I expected him to sleep so that I could pass out the second half. Even during my pregnancy, knowing that it might be harmful to the baby, I could not stop drinking. The fear of any harm to that child was not enough to make me stop. Sometimes I would try to go to the park with him, but I was becoming really fearful of people finding out what a sick person I was. Today, since I joined AA, I don't have that sensation anymore at all. I have a purpose in life today. I know who I am. I know where I'm going, and I feel good about it. I can be a mother to my child, and I can be a wife to my husband, and I couldn't be any of those things when I was drinking. Alcoholics Anonymous. It works. Look us up. Check your phone book, newspaper, or AA.org.
Hey, look! Running around in the meetings, gobbling up gallons of bad coffee, flapping his gums wherever he can bring a smile to a hurting face. It's Slogan Man! We know cute little platitudes and sayings on the wall in a 12-step meeting won't keep you sober, but they sure will make you think, consider, and even laugh your way through an otherwise crappy day. Can't wait to get to your home group to hear those slogans over and over and over and over again? No need to. Pick up a copy of the 12-Step Gazette and join the adventures of Slogan Man. Visit www.12stepgazette.com and subscribe today. Slogans and platitudes are no substitute for working the steps, but Slogan Man is very cool.
Attention, everyone. I have something brand new that I passed on to the Monty Man this week, and I thought you would enjoy some of what I call the stupid is as stupid does news. So take it away, Monty Man.
That's correct, friends. It's time for Take 12 Recovery Radio's Stupid Is as Stupid Does News. That's right. Sponsored this week by Free by the Sea, Sunset View Recovery, Drug and Alcohol Recovery Treatment Center in beautiful Ocean Park, Washington. Visit their website at freebythesea.com. So this is inspired by the boozy news. And in no way is this as well done as the boozy news. I got to tell you, the boozy news, the news not fit for booze on Recovery 101 is the bomb. I mean, it is amazing. I just love what they do. It doesn't even compare, but they inspired me. And so here's page one. Stupid is as stupid as news. You guys ever get too high? Marv, ever been too drunk?
I don't know. I always passed out.
Well, he's been too drunk. Bruce, ever gotten too high? Did you ever say, "Wow, I am really high"?
Yes.
Yeah. Did you ever regret it? I mean, we were like, I'm a little. You didn't regret it. I'm a little too high. Well, and this is actually an old.
I think I'm going a little overboard here, but we're going to do one more.
Yeah, we'll just do one more. After I flopped around after having a seizure after doing too much cocaine and saying, God, I'll never do that again. 5 minutes later, I was doing some more. Yeah, what is with that? Well, this actually isn't a new story. This one's an old one. By now, many people in the nation are probably aware. You guys may not be. I don't know. The poor 22-year-old from Austintown, Ohio, who called 911 to say that he was too high. Help, I'm too high. And
you guys are nuts. You know that?
That is... Bruce is too high.
Oh, jeez.
Well, when the police found it...
I guess I never have been high. Oh, Lord.
Recovery 101. See what you did to us. Well, when the police found him, he was surrounded by Doritos and cookies. Oh, dear.
Was he? That's...
In a 911 call obtained by WJW, the sad sap explains that he can't feel anything. The dispatcher asked, "Okay, what'd you take?" And he replied, "Weed." The caller sounded upset, and the dispatcher's tone changed from serious to comforting. "Okay," the dispatcher says, "we'll send an EMS right over to check you out, okay?" "Okay, thank you," the caller replies. It turns out he was indeed okay. He refused medical attention and gave responding officers the keys to his car so they could find his stash. Inside, they found a jar of marijuana, 2 joints, and paraphernalia. Because he's in Ohio, the caller faced possession charges. People who have smoked marijuana report an increased appetite because of brain stimulation from THC, one of the drug's ingredients. The substance triggers the brain's cannabinoid system, which is connected to memory, emotions, and appetite. In this case, it seems it was a little too stimulated for his own good. "I'm too high." Oh, Lordy.
As he eats a Twinkie.
Ever suck the filling out of a Twinkie?
I bought way too much food, though.
I hear you.
Yeah, I had to. We had 31 flavors where I lived, and we'd go there and we'd get tacos and hamburgers and hot dogs.
Oh, dude, we had a place called Scarf and Barf, and the hamburgers were 25 cents, and the French fries were a dime, and you get a bag. I'm telling you, it was 4 feet tall, and it was huge, and all the grease from it was a brown bag, so all this from the fries soaked through the bag, and we'd order like 20 hamburgers. I'm talking about a piece. Of course, we were stoned out of our gourd. Probably couldn't even taste the things, but man, it was a lot of fun. And you know what was really, really crazy about it? Scarf and Barf was right next to the railroad tracks in Petaluma, where I grew up. And people would park on the railroad tracks. They were too stoned. They didn't realize it. And they'd eat their burgers and fries. So that's a little too high. It's a little too high. Well, Claus, here's page 2. Claus Schmidt, I can't even pronounce it, tried to rob a bank in Berlin by walking in with a pistol and demanding money. Okay, well, so far this is pretty standard for a bank heist. However, as the robbery progressed, the bank employees noticed that the criminal was acting rather strangely. At one point, one of them asked the robber if he needed a bag, and he replied, "You're damn right, it's a real gun." Well, this made them realize that Schmidt had a noticeable handicap. He was deaf. Taking advantage, one employee set off the alarm. Schmidt remained oblivious. Even while the incredibly loud alarm was going off and the police approached the bank, the robber remained calm and patient, occasionally spouting threats. When the police did arrive, they quickly took the criminal into custody. However, Schmidt found a way to turn a negative into a positive. We're really good at that, right? We're creative. He sued the bank for exploiting his disability. So if you're going to rob a bank, it may be a good idea that you could hear.
Sounds like it.
It didn't sound like anything to Claus. Oh, gee. World's dumbest criminals. All right. Page 3. Have you guys ever offered anybody free beer? Of course you have.
No.
Yes, you did. You invited people over to drink with you.
No.
Oh, you antisocial alcoholic. What about you, Marv?
Yeah, once in a while.
Sure.
No.
You never gave anybody a free beer?
No.
Wow. You're stingy. You're stingy. You're really stingy.
Free beer. Nobody ever gave me a free beer.
The police did. Nobody gave you a free beer. Police in the small town of Fort Bragg, California, lure fugitives with a delicious promise. Oh, love this. The men received notices, these are fugitives, through undercover officers informing them they had won a crate of beer each. To collect, they needed to contact the company that ran the promotion. Many were tempted by the prospect. 19 fugitives called the assigned number, setting up a time and place to collect their winnings. And tragically, there was no free beer. When they turned up, just police officers ready to take them into custody. So if you're running from the law and somebody calls you up and says there's a free case of beer or some pot or some dope, don't go there. I guess if you're an addict, though, right? What would you do, Marv, if you were running from the law and you got a phone call that says, come get your free case of beer?
I wouldn't.
You wouldn't go?
I wouldn't go.
Bruce would.
Free beer?
Yeah.
Count me in.
Well, listen, giving out your phone number can be really stupid. This is
Number 4.
number 4. It can be really stupid. That is, if you're really stoned and you are a robber. A very stoned 18-year-old named Ruben wanted to rob a muffler shop in Chicago. Just that sounds weird. He entered the store armed with a gun and demanded money, but there was a problem. Most of the money was in the safe. Only the manager could open it, and the manager wasn't in. Ruben decided that he would try again later. To save himself some time, he left his cell phone number with the store employees. And that way they could call him when the manager came back.
Where are you coming up with all this stuff?
I am telling you, man, people are crazy. First, however, the employees called Chicago police. Police arrived and instructed the employees to call the robber, and Ruben returned to find officers waiting for him. They engaged in a brief shootout, and in the end, Ruben went to jail. Don't leave your phone number. Well, if you think that was stupid. If you're going to commit a crime, you probably should plan ahead, right? Do a little planning. What do you think, Bruce? Did you ever plan ahead?
Never.
You just did it? You know the story. I think maybe you do too, Marv. About I was running out of cocaine, and I needed it really bad because my body was going through withdrawal. So I pulled up in my little Honda Civic in front of a deli up by Oregon State Hospital, University, or whatever that is, up on the hill in Portland, right in front of this deli that had this huge picture window. I pull right up in front. I mean, you can see the car, the license plate and everything. I walk in with my sweater around my finger, my hand, and I asked the ladies very politely, would it be too much trouble if you donated your cash till to me? Because I'm really in need of some drugs. And they did. They gave it to me, and I just drove off. Didn't plan that ahead at all. Not at all. I went to jail. Well, Albert Bailey and an unnamed juvenile accomplice decided to rob a bank in Fairfield, Connecticut. To streamline the procedure, this is planning ahead, you guys. This is the epitome of planning ahead. Bailey called the bank in advance to let them know that they were coming to rob it. Hi. Can you just picture this? Hi, this is Albert Bailey, and I'm going to be coming to your bank, and I'm going to be robbing you at gunpoint. And I just want to give you fair warning. So, if you guys, want to take a lunch break beforehand or whatever, I'm going to be there. Well, the intention here was to give the bank plenty of time to get the money ready so that the two of them could just walk in, take the cash, and leave. I can't even imagine the stupidity of this. Minutes after the police call, Bailey sent in his juvenile accomplice along with a note to eliminate any confusion, perhaps in case the bank was waiting for a different robber, right? Meanwhile, a bank employee had the police on the phone and updated them about everything that was happening. The robbers had demanded $100,000, but they got away with nothing. They then walked out into the arms of police, who arrested both of them immediately without incident. They were charged with first-degree robbery and threatening in the first degree, and Bailey faced up to 9 years in prison for calling ahead. I love that. I love that. Well, some homes just shouldn't be burglarized. They just shouldn't. What would happen if somebody burglarized your home, Marv? Would the horses attack them? robber.
Well, I'll tell you one thing, they wouldn't get much.
They wouldn't get much. Bruce, they'd just get a smile from Scotty, wouldn't they? Oh, hi, come on in.
Yeah, he'd invite him in, sit him down, and
he would
read to him.
Well, one of the keys to a successful burglary is to find the right target. A really perfect house would be full of valuables with no people inside. That'd be ideal. The next best thing would probably be a home where the residents are at least sleeping. Now, on the opposite side of the spectrum, try to imagine what would make the worst target. How about a house full of police officers? Well, that's what Darren Kimpton of Abington, Northampton, chose to do. The home he selected had already been burglarized earlier that evening. The owner had called the police, and officers were on the scene investigating the previous burglary when Kimpton broke in. He tried to make a run for it, but was captured after a brief struggle. That wasn't Kimpton's first unsuccessful burglary attempt of the day. He previously tried to break into a nearby house, but failed to do so. He did, however, manage to break some glass, cut himself, and leave blood at the scene, so the police were easily, they were able to link him to the crime through DNA. That sounds like that does sound like something I'd do. Break into a house full of police. All right. Here's the last one. Number 6, I think. This will blow your mind. I was absolutely floored. I can't believe it. This is just in time for Halloween. Just in time for Halloween. Happy October, everybody. An extremely intoxicated passenger on American Airlines found his way to the restroom at the rear of the plane he was traveling on. Once inside the tiny vestibule, he locked himself in for what seemed to the flight attendants as an unreasonable amount of time. When flight personnel attempted to speak to the man, they received no response. Forced to break down the door of the restroom, what they found was almost unbelievable. The man had managed to hang himself upside down from a light fixture by his feet with his necktie and was sleeping. Once awakened, he was questioned. I know. Who does this stuff? I've heard of some pretty interesting things going on in the bathrooms of planes, but not this. Once awakened, he was questioned and presented to the plane's security officers. They have these security guys on all the flights. And he was asked for his driver's license. It was a Florida driver's license. You will never guess the name, the official name on his driver's license.
Possum.
Ed, close. Mr. Bela Lugosi. Now, for listeners that are maybe a little younger, you may not know, but the real Bela Lugosi was one of the original actors who played Dracula, who played Count Dracula in the black and white horror films. You ever see any of those?
Yep.
This guy, his driver's license, his name on his license was Mr. Bela Lugosi. He was hanging upside down in a plane restroom. There you go. Like I said, not comparable to the boozy news from Recovery 101, but a lot of fun anyway. Yeah. All right. We'll be right back. Right after this. Hello there. This is the Monty Man from Take 12 Radio. Men, women, and their families experience tremendous pain and suffering due to the struggles they face from substance abuse and its co-occurring mental health challenges. They need to find a safe place for peace and healing. Well, Therapia Addiction Healing Center was born out of a deep desire to provide that safe and powerful healing environment. Therapia is a Greek word for healing. Traditionally, classic Greek medicine was holistic. It viewed the mind and body as one. At Therapia Addiction Healing Center, they have developed a holistic healing approach to treating addiction that is designed to bring into balance the mind, body, and the spirit. For more information, visit www.therapia.com. That's www.therapia.com. Therapia Addiction Healing Center, helping people recover from addictions
by developing and maintaining healthy, meaningful relationships with God, self, and others.
Origins Recovery Centers provides integrated inpatient treatment for substance abuse and co-occurring disorders. At Origins, clients receive expert medical, clinical, and spiritual care, individually designed for their needs. Our clients leave Origins with a foundation upon which they will build the rest of their lives. Call now to speak with an admissions specialist. Our toll-free number is 888-843-8935. That's 888-843-8935. Origins, delivering real solutions for real families.
All right, welcome back. How did the guy get up? How did he do that? How did he hang himself upside down? And I can't even move in those bathrooms. You know what I mean? It's a chore just to get in the door of those airplane bathrooms, especially when you're a large beast like myself. I don't know. People do amazing things. You would think they could do great things, you know, if they find their way into being able to hang themselves upside down by their necktie. Hey, listen, Rosemary O'Connor was my guest here a while back. She wrote a book called A Sober Mom's Guide to Recovery, Taking Care of Yourself to Take Care of Your Kids. Excellent book. I'm giving away this book to the person who sends me the fifth email. It's timestamped, so I'll know who it is. The fifth email this week. This book comes included with my notes. I took out all the Post-it stickers, but with my notes and highlighted sections, and Rosemary's phone number and her email and my signature. I'm not the author, but you know everybody wants the Monty Man signature, right?
Yeah.
Why not? So whenever I get a book and I interview an author, one of the things that I like to do on occasion is to give that book away, especially if I've already read it. And for you, those of you who may be single moms raising kids and you're in recovery, this is really a really handy book. I mean, topics on dating and trauma and anger and exhaustion. I mean, heaven knows single women are exhausted trying to raise family, hitting bottom, worry. It's very good, very well done. Congratulations to Rosemary O'Connor on that. So number 5, email. Just type in something like, I want a Sober Mom's Guide to Recovery, and make sure you give us your address, and I'll notify you, and we'll get that off to you. All right. We really didn't have a topic for this week, but I was looking at My Utmost for His Highest, Oswald Chambers' devotional book. And today's devotion, I just thought was really excellent. It's entitled "Getting into God's Stride," and as I was reading this, I was thinking in my head, keeping stride with God, and then I realized that my thinking was incorrect. That I can't keep stride with God. I can't keep up with the dude. You know what I'm saying? I mean, he's so far ahead of me. But that I can get into his stride. And let me read this. The true test of a person's spiritual life and character is not what he does in the extraordinary moments of life, but what he does during the ordinary times when there is nothing tremendous or exciting happening. A person's worth is revealed in his attitude toward the ordinary things of life when he is not under the spotlight. It is painful work to get in step with God and to keep pace with Him. It means getting your second wind spiritually. In learning to walk with God, there is always the difficulty of getting into His stride. But once we have done so, the only characteristic that exhibits itself is the very life of God Himself. The individual person is merged into a personal oneness with God, and God's stride and His power alone are exhibited. It is difficult to get into stride with God because as soon as we start walking with Him, we find that His pace has surpassed us before we have even taken 3 steps. He has different ways of doing things, and we have to be trained and disciplined in his ways. It was said of Jesus, quote, he will not fail nor be discouraged, end quote. And that's in Isaiah 42:4. Because he never worked from his own individual standpoint, but always worked from the standpoint of his Father. And we must learn to do the same. Spiritual truth is learned through the atmosphere that surrounds us, not through intellectual reasoning. It is God's Spirit that changes the atmosphere of our way of looking at things, and then things begin to be possible, which before were impossible. Getting into God's stride means nothing less than oneness with him. It takes a long time to get there, but keep at it. Don't give up, because the pain is intense right now. Get on with it. And before long, you will find that you have a new vision and a new purpose. That's some powerful stuff.
Yes, it is.
Bruce, what you think, buddy? Can you keep up with God on your own power?
No way, and I don't think I was meant to.
Right.
Yeah.
Can you keep up with God on your own power, Marv?
No, sir.
We just can't muster it up, can we?
No. And this what you've read here is so true. The sentence, it says a person's worth is revealed in his attitude towards the ordinary things of life when he is not under the spotlight. Ooh.
Ooh, I know, that kind of, ouch.
Because my attitude sucks sometimes.
Yeah.
And what he's saying is, and it's kind of an eye-opener really, that it's during the ordinary times, the everyday humdrum expectations that haven't been met and stuff like that, when God's doing the most important work in changing us. And here I sit and I'm going, hey, and, I don't like this, and whine and cry and get depressed and moan and
we almost think that the lightning's got to strike or something to prove to us God's working.
Well, I think for me, I don't know about anybody else, and it's not so much today as it has been in the past, but I'm always thinking there's a burning bush right around the corner. And of course there's not.
Yeah.
Looking for this,
miraculous thing.
The spotlight.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is good. I like this.
In the back of the big book, there's a chapter that talks about, because and it wasn't in the first edition. Bill W. had this white light experience, and it was a miraculous thing. And I mean, and God, literally filled the room and spoke to him audibly. And there was a concern that in the old days that people would think that was the kind of experience they would have to have a legitimate spiritual awakening. Mm-hmm. And so they wrote a chapter in the back of the big book explaining that that's not always the case. Do not be dismayed or downtrodden, because that may not happen that way. It may be of the educational variety. It may be a process and so forth. It didn't happen to me like that either. But I will tell you that I still many times, I want a sign, man. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Send me a sign that I'm supposed to turn right or turn left. Throw out a fleece out there. If this happens, then I'll know it's you, and that kind of thing. And that's kind of trusting my own intellect, because then I determine if the sign's valid or not through my own thinking.
Yeah.
Bruce, any comments, my brother?
Well, I agree with what you guys have been talking about right now, and the importance of that. But the part that jumped out of me in this is, and I have to read, because it just seems to me that we think God needs our help, but when we're talking about our spiritual life and what it means, it's vitally important that we understand what that is and where it comes from. Mm-hmm. And we talk about in our book that knowledge isn't the whole thing, but it's important to have that, for we have a basis by which to go to God, of what's going on.
Yeah.
So I'm not saying that knowledge isn't important. I'm just saying. So listen to what it says here about spiritual truth. It says spiritual truth is learned through the atmosphere that surrounds us, not through intellectual reasoning. That's kind of broad statement, okay?
Yeah.
And then it says this: it is God's Spirit that changes the atmosphere of our way of looking at things. It says, and then things begin to be possible, which before were impossible. See, where does the credit go for something like that? It goes to God.
It's got to, because it's God's Spirit that changes the atmosphere, it says.
And it's
here.
it's this spiritual awareness. It's a lot of us have been brought up where it's talked about our God consciousness.
Mm-hmm.
You see what I mean? Our God consciousness is towards Him, and as we grow in this spiritual learning, as this process unfolds, then it becomes very evident to us how precious God is. And He should be the pinnacle of what it is that we're reaching for. You see?
Yeah.
And He should be at the top of it, and we should cherish Him above all things. If you understand what it is and what spirituality is supposed to be all about, it's supposed to be about living His will, looking for His will, and carrying that out instead of what Marv was talking about. The spotlight.
Right. And we talked about
because that's what we do.
We talked about before the show what is spirituality, and we hear a lot of things. Well, I never bought a new car in my whole life. Here I am, 45 years old, and God blessed me with a new car. That was a spiritual experience. Okay. But that's not the spiritual experience we're talking about in the Big Book, for instance.
And we're not talking about now.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, that's...
I dropped acid. That was a spiritual experience. Whoop-de-doo. Whoop-de-doo. But it's not the one that we're talking about.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's a good comparison. I laugh,
right,
at this, but you're absolutely right, Monty.
Yeah.
You're absolutely right. We have a tendency to do that. But this spiritual experience that we're talking about is a personal relationship with God, and willing to improve that, to grow in that, in the wisdom and knowledge of who He is.
Yeah.
And then that's what we're to pass along, this spiritual thing. We're to talk about that freely.
Yeah.
But that's on a one-on-one basis. We don't have to go into rooms and preach like I do.
Marv, you have something to share?
Well, I hate this part. It says it takes a long time to get there.
Yeah.
Well, no kidding.
Yeah.
Well, and that really brings alive that statement in the 9th step. And I know we're talking about the 9th step when we say sometimes quickly, sometimes slowly, but we can certainly apply that to a lot of areas in our recovery, that sometimes slowly, right?
Yeah. Yeah. It takes a long time. Well, I'm running out of time.
Yeah, God, don't you know, man?
I'm old. Let's hurry up and get this done.
It says, but keep at it.
Yeah, and that's what I wanted to talk about a little bit. And then it has a comma, or is it a comma, or yeah, and it says, but keep at it. And it's that's where the reward's at for me.
Mm-hmm.
And most of the time, to be honest, I don't recognize it. And hindsight's 20/20.
Sure.
And you look back and wow, and I was praying about that this morning. Matter of fact, at home before I got here, help me, Lord, to keep at it. Don't let me give up. You guys know a little bit about what's been going on the last couple of years, and I've come so close to just throwing up my hands and
saying, screw it.
Heck with it.
Yeah.
Let's go get drunk, or let's do something stupid like walk away and don't come back. But I've said this several times that for me personally, I can't do it. God is the solution, and I have to keep at it. I do not want to give up, no matter what it looks like or feels like. I was thinking too here a while back on a church billboard. I seen this sign, and this kind of reminded me of it. It says, "Patience is not the act of waiting; it's how you act while you wait."
Ooh,
and that's what this kind of, because my attitude has been and will probably be again pretty crappy, to put it plainly. I fight and fight and fight. I'm looking for this sign, like you were talking about. It's really puzzling to me.
See, I see a real beauty in what you're talking about. It's just wonderful to me because I see a man that recognizes his need for God. You see, that turns my clock. You know, that is, I could sit and listen to Marv talk like this all day long. I wish you'd write some poetry or music to that theme and talk about that. That is, that's absolutely moving to a man like me. It wasn't until I understood my need that God became so precious to me.
Yeah, well, if you don't think you have a need.
But see, we didn't want to recognize that. We were always taught that
self-sufficient,
put your boots on, pull yourself up.
Yeah.
You got yourself in this mess, you got to get yourself out and, not lean on nobody. Right. And that's the way we were brought up, Defense.
I even got that kind of attitude early on in my 12-step support meeting when I first came in the rooms. And it was, I lived quite a distance from the meeting, and I didn't drive. And I asked for a ride, and the guy says, well, you walk to get your dope, you can walk to the meeting. I'm like, you're telling me to learn how to to not be so independent, and then I asked for help? You're telling me to learn how to ask for help, and then I asked for help, and you tell me that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we're a little confused.
What's going down?
It's because of who we are, and, it's very hard to come into a place like Alcoholics Anonymous and then turn your life around to where you're trying to be altruistic, where you're trying to put other people's welfare ahead of your own, to love your neighbor as you love yourself.
When we've been so selfish and self-centered.
Right.
And so mistakenly thinking that we are independent.
Right.
Because we may think we are, we may think we're all self-sufficient, we have, I don't care what anybody thinks about me, blah, 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 blah. But the truth be known is that's not really the case.
Yeah. But it's hard, and we don't always show that when we're trying to help people.
Right.
We're not always, showing their concern ahead of ours. It's like the 12th tradition. Okay?
Right.
Anonymity is the spiritual foundation of all our traditions.
Right.
What they're trying to get across there, if you read the long version of that, are you willing to set your stuff aside for the betterment of the group?
Yeah.
You see what I mean?
Yeah.
And that means...
That's the bottom line there. Yeah.
Yeah, are we? That's why it's the spiritual foundation.
Right.
Okay?
Right.
And seeing, are we willing to put our stuff aside and shut ourselves off the best we can and listen to what this person is saying?
So we can be of help.
Or we can be of help.
Yeah, there you go. Mm-hmm. Yes, indeed.
It's hard. It's awful hard to do, to be that kind of man when there's other things going on in our head. That's why we have to stop listening to ourselves and preach to ourselves.
You know, we're not going to get into God's stride. You know what I think about when what I picture in my mind is a little child. Colin and Cameron did this when they were little. They would come up to me and wrap their arms around my waist, and they would put their feet on the top of my feet, and then I would walk. Right? And so they were walking, but they were walking in my stride. They were dependent on my walk because they weren't capable, of doing, what I could do as far as the stride goes, the length of the stride and all that kind of thing. And I think if we're in a recovery process, here's the bottom line for me. Alcoholics Anonymous and other 12-step organizations, for the most part, the program, the book, the literature, is about helping you find a power greater than a human power to help you solve your problem. And if that's not happening in your meeting, you're in a bad group. And that's just my opinion. I'm not saying it has to happen every day. I'm just saying if that isn't the focus, then that's not an AA meeting. That's something else. You can call it an AA meeting, but if we're not helping people to develop a relationship with this power to help them solve their problem, then what are we doing?
That's like on a one-on-one basis that we do that. I'm going to play devil's advocate here.
Okay.
And you know how I feel about meetings. We've talked about this 100 times.
Yeah.
I mean, about being the solution. That if the meetings are talked about in a general way, they share their experience, strength, and hope in a general way. But it's on a one-on-one basis where we get to know an individual and we teach them the steps.
I agree with you.
And these type of things. So I think it's when we see the meetings replacing the steps, you see what I mean?
Yeah.
As a
I see
form
what
of
you're
recovery,
saying.
it irritates us and rubs us wrong.
Right.
Just go to meetings and this sort of thing.
Right.
And we see this being transmitted, and we see this taking hold in Alcoholics Anonymous. And it's undeniable, a thing that happens. And I'm not sure that it don't have its place, but it's not what AA is about. AA is about it's a 12-step program. But they have these meetings where people come to. Now, watch what I'm saying about this, listening to people. If I hear you and you have a drug problem, and I can catch your confidence by telling you about me, and you would know that, then I can give you the solution. But I can't do that in a meeting,
right?
Because there's the crosstalk and no crosstalk and these type of things, and we talk in a general way.
Yeah,
but it inflames people like you and me.
I think that's probably done a lot more than you think.
I would hope it is.
Yeah. And the thing about it is, I didn't mean to interrupt, but this sentence caught my eye, and being you're talking about meetings, I have to believe that this is true for that too. But it says, spiritual truth is learned through the atmosphere that surrounds us, not through intellectual reasoning. Mm-hmm. And Monty, here a while back, you gave us a book. Is it Dick B?
Mike D? Or Dick B's book, yeah.
Yeah. And he's talking about the original first months of AA and how that happened.
Right.
It's a long ways from what we got today.
The atmosphere is a lot different, isn't it?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
But I don't want to be naive, but I really think that atmosphere And I base this a lot on tradition too, that it's there, that we don't recognize it, maybe, and there's a lot more going on in the spiritual world than what we realize just by what we see going on around us.
Maybe it's just because
I might be wrong, but
it might be because I'm so attuned to the to the bad side of that, the demonic forces that are taking place. And I include that as secular.
Yeah, well, we know the devil goes to church, the devil goes to meetings, and I mean, if you don't want to, listeners, if you don't want to call it that, you don't believe in that, okay, talk about the enemy of your soul. Let's talk about your addict, your alcoholic, your thinking. It comes to meetings, it comes to church, it comes to synagogue, and it tries to get in there and get you off track. And sometimes we can hear that louder than we can the good stuff.
It amazes me how Marv is latched on to this part. I'm latched onto this part, and I think you're more in tune with me. But I think it would be wonderful just to think and to
I'm not
like what you're saying.
I'm not adverse to what you guys are saying at all. I'm just thinking possibilities of what goes on that we don't see.
Exactly, and I'm saying it would be good if a person could think like that. I wonder if I'll ever reach that sort of thing, or if that's not what I'm tuned to. And that's not how God has made me.
Well, and that's the beauty about we talk about diversity. The three of us.
That's what I'm talking about.
There's diversity amongst the three of us, and yet we're all on the same page. Isn't that amazing? And that's God's work in our lives. That's the fellowship of His Spirit that we talk about.
It's like Marv's one-liners, and he's a cowboy. Well, I'm from the city. And I like to talk in sentences.
You belong to the city.
Well, I told Bruce yesterday, he came out and visited with me for a little bit, and he was getting ready to leave, and I said, Bruce, you don't have to be very smart to ride a horse. You just throw a leg on each side and put your mind in the middle. And he shakes his head and says, "Oh, Marv," he said, and drove off.
Oh, that's great. Well, you guys, we're out of time. This has been fun.
No coffee for you next time.
That coffee, we had some coffee for the listeners so they can get jealous. Our secretary at the church that I work at on Tuesdays and Thursdays, Gail, for my 60th birthday, her husband and her, they roast their own beans.
You see, he's just going to continue with this.
I know. They roast their own beans, and they got it from Honduras coffee beans. And they roasted them, and they gave me some, and we drank it. And now I'm very, very excited because I'm taping the Free by the Sea Recovery Radio Show for Friday here in just a few minutes. And I think I'm really on board with it.
To bean or not to bean?
To bean or not to bean. Zippity-doo-dah. Okay, listen, visit recovery101.podomatic.com. You'll get a kick out of it. These guys, they will tickle your funny bone. And listen to the boozy news, the news not fit for booze. I think I'm quoting that correctly. They are something else. All right, you guys, we'll see you next week, right?
You will.
Lord willing, and the creek don't rise.
Yes, sir.
Whatever that means. I guess it's literal. Lord willing, we don't get flooded out. All right, my friends. Let's see here. Yes. Until our next broadcast, this is the Monty Man along with Marv and Bruce. We're wishing God's perfect serenity for you.
This has been a broadcast of Take 12 Recovery Radio and KHLT Recovery Broadcasting.
Kitty, 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 kitty.